Hey there everybody, my name is Tyler Valle of NicheGamer.com and this is Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered for the PC. Now this review is going to serve as both a port report as well as a general review of Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. Now, I'm going to state up front, I'm not particularly interested in superheroes anymore. Shocking, I know, but I generally believe that the genre is really played out and gets more tiresome with every new film release. I don't even read comics anymore unless they're drawn by Amanda Conner, and I think that the genre generally peaked with Batman the Animated Series back in the 1990s. That being said, I'm not gonna lie and pretend that there aren't some great superhero games out there, especially in the last 15 years or so. Yeah, occasionally we get games like Marvel's Avengers, a live service game that nobody asked for and nobody played, but at the same time, we get games like Batman Arkham City, Wolverine, or Guardians of the Galaxy, each games that I think are incredible that any fan of action games should play. And when it comes to Marvel's Spider-Man, I think it's the best adaptation of the Spider-Man IP in video game form. Many have argued, myself included, that Spider-Man peaked with Spider-Man 2 back on the PlayStation 2 and GameCube and original Xbox. I agreed with that sentiment prior to playing this game. It took over 15 years, but Insomniac have finally been able to dethrone it, making Marvel's Spider-Man not only the best Spider-Man game, but placing it high upon the hill of best open world games on the market. The story of Spider-Man is incredibly fast-paced, starting you off right in the middle of the action. The game opens up with Spider-Man racing downtown to help the police take down Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, after a years-long investigation into his corruption and crime dealings have finally led the police to building a case to take him down. You're thrown right into the action, taking on waves of thugs, web-slinging your way across a crumbling tower, a metaphor for Kingpin's crumbling criminal empire. After Kingpin is finally defeated and put behind bars, he yells a warning to Spider-Man, a prophecy that he was the one that kept New York City safe, and with him gone, the power vacuum left behind will bring in something truly wicked.
Idiots! I'm the one who kept order in this city! 1 month! In 1 month you'll wish you had me back!
And something wicked that way came. The demons. Chinese mercenaries wearing demon masks with mysterious powers strike out against New York City, first targeting Fisk's former bases of operation before turning their gaze on the mayor of New York himself, Norman Osborn. Spider-Man has to work together with the police and Mary Jane Watson, a writer for the Daily Bugle, and his ex-girlfriend to seek out who the leader of the demons is and bring him down together before more innocent lives are lost. The stakes always feel like they're being raised and kept me on the edge of my seat wondering what's going to happen next. At the same time, Peter Parker also has to deal with the struggles of being a barely employed lab assistant working alongside the brilliant, moral, but underfunded Otto Octavius. And the two of them are working together on a breakthrough for mankind. Brain-controlled artificial limbs, tools to help people like combat veterans regain pieces of themselves that they lost in war. You can witness their struggles as their funding is pulled by Norman Osborn, and Dr. Octavius suffers a slow spiral into a grief-stricken madness. Honestly, I thought it was a really real take on Spider-Man and Peter Parker as a person. How would Spider-Man be able to afford an apartment in New York City when he spends all of his time fighting supervillains? It's not like he has like a licensing agreement or something, and yeah, the Avengers exist in New York, but they're not helping him, not now at least. Also, I want to just take a moment here on the side to say that some of the best content in this game's story is just watching characters talk to each other. I love the dialogue between Peter and Mary Jane or Peter and his aunt. The characters are so well acted and their voice actors do a fantastic job, especially Yuri Lowenthal.
Future. I came here to work for you because of what you've got up here. And that's not going anywhere. So neither am I.
At the end of the day, the story of Spider-Man is charming and very enjoyable. Insomniac are not a new studio, but what they've been able to accomplish with the Spider-Man title, creating a game that feels so genuine and full of heart, is nothing to sneeze at. It's clear that they cared about the source material, but also wanted to go out of their way to create a self-contained, unique story, and they definitely accomplished that. But it's the gameplay of Marvel's Spider-Man that really shines. One of the most challenging things to properly tackle in a Spider-Man game was how to make web-slinging feel fun in the game. In a world where Spider-Man can swing from building to building, you really need to be able to knock it out of the park to make the player feel alive as they're swinging. And Insomniac did that and then some, because traveling in this game feels awesome. You can get across New York City so quickly that even when the game introduces a fast travel mechanic, I never felt the need to use it because I was having so much fun just zipping down the street trying to do tricks. On top of that, the animations in the game are great too. If you move the thumbstick a little to the left, Spider-Man will use his left wrist to swing from a building from his left. But if you do it to his right, he'll use his right wrist to swing from his right. If you're low to the ground, he'll lift his legs up so he doesn't hit the ground. If you swing and slide along a building, Spider-Man will begin to run alongside that building. You can run up or along buildings before leaping off in the air and swinging from mid-air. Movement in this game is just awesome. And it's something that they put an incredible amount of detail into. So for like example, if you're swinging and you see like a water tower and you want to swing underneath its legs, Spider-Man will actually compress himself and swing through legs first rather than just hitting some kind of invisible wall. It's just genuinely perfect. But it's not just the movement in this game that needs to be taken into consideration, it's also the combat. So how does the combat work? Well, the combat's pretty good. I mean, I like it. It's like a more fast-paced Batman Arkham game, and yeah, I kind of admit I'm getting a little tired of these kinds of combat games, and I would love to see this combat system evolve more, but it's not broken, so maybe they don't need to fix it this time, but with the next game, they definitely do. Where Batman feels more sturdy and hits like a truck, Spider-Man wins battles by taking down his foes with quick attacks and web combos. I really enjoyed the combat. I never felt like it was frustrating, nor did I ever feel like it was being unfair to me. I always felt like it was a perfect level of challenge. That being said, it did start getting easier as the game went along. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Not every game needs to be difficult, and I can safely say that Marvel's Spider-Man is not the Dark Souls of superhero games. Spider-Man also has some really cool gadgets that he can use in and out of combat as well. On top of your ability to web sling, you also get the ability to whip out a new tool to help you smack around a thug. Whether it's a web grenade, a web landmine, a flying little drone decoy, or a nice shock from a taser, there's always a tool for the job. And along with your web gadgets, each of the main costumes that you can unlock in the game also unlocks its own unique ability, which thankfully can actually be equipped to any other costume along with 3 unique buffs, meaning you can set up your perfect look for Spider-Man along with your perfect build for Spider-Man. But honestly, my favorite strategy in the game was pretty simple. If I was ever in danger of dying, I would run away until I found like a trash can or a manhole cover, and then use my webs to just throw that thing at a thug's head as hard as I freaking can, hoping to knock his goofy looking noggin off. And it always worked, and I loved it. So yeah, the gameplay's fun, the movement's fun, the combat's fun. That being said, there is one major drawback to the gameplay of Marvel's Spider-Man, and that's any time that you're not playing as Peter Parker or Spider-Man. Occasionally, you're going to run into scenes where you're playing as Miles Morales or Mary Jane Watson, and these sections are usually stealth sections that feel bland and repetitive. Now, admittedly, I really enjoyed the first time that you play as Miles, but that's largely due to the fact that the scene that takes place just before that was insane. Unfortunately, these scenes are not fun, they're not engaging, and I never felt like I was on my toes or had a lot to worry about. It's basically just trial and error stealth mechanics until I was able to play as Spider-Man again. But the moment I was able to play as Spider-Man again, the light returned to my life and I was right back into playing the game. Let's discuss the graphics. After all, this is a remaster for the PC, which is largely focused on its graphics and performance. With the game coming to PC, it comes with a host of new graphical options for you to toy around with, so you get as much flash out of your game as possible. I was running the game on medium to high settings with ray tracing on, and I got a pretty consistent 60 FPS. Whenever I did get frame drops, it was when I was swinging through the city at top speeds for a really long period of time. After a while, the map would begin to struggle to load in on me. But if I slowed down for just a moment or two, everything would normalize again. So while yeah, there are hiccups here and there, the game overall ran really well for me. And in combat though, I never saw a problem. It ran like a dream. Spider-Man is also the first game I ever played that had ray tracing on, and it's awesome. Seeing light reflected off of buildings or from puddles of water just looked so cool that I'm going to struggle to play games that don't have that option going forward. The graphical presentation is awesome, as expected from the PC remaster. They gave us the tools to make our game look as good as possible, and I tried. The game just looks great, and with the photo mode, you can take some really fun pictures too. Though I never felt like I personally made pictures that looked good or properly encapsulated just how beautiful this game looked. There are moments when I was playing this game where I would just stop on the top of a building and admire the world. Maybe it was the night sky over New York City or the sunset on the horizon. Perhaps it was swinging through Times Square with all those colorful billboards. It was just awesome. This game is as fun to look at as it is to play. The music in Spider-Man feels classical, more along the lines of what you saw in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy compared to what we hear in the Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield films. It raises this sense of nostalgia in me and fills me with this swelling of excitement when I'm swinging from building to building. You can hear that musical track kick in the background, and it just feels awesome. But on top of the music, it's the voice acting of this game that's really superb.
Get more backup and lock down the airspace.
Yuri, you okay?
If he makes it out of that building, we're gonna lose him.
I'm gonna go,
Do your thing.
As I mentioned earlier, Yuri Lowenthal does a fantastic job as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And that's a skill that not many have been able to master. I genuinely bought him in both roles, despite the fact that the characters are just so different from one another. One of my main concerns that I had with this game when I started it up was I was afraid that after hearing Spider-Man's quipping, I would eventually find it to be old and tiresome and I just wouldn't want to hear it anymore. But Yuri Lowenthal does a fantastic job and puts so much effort into his voice acting, I never got bored of it. And it's not just him. Every character is perfectly cast in this game. Norman Osborn, Otto Octavius, Jonah J. Jameson, Martin Lee, Aunt May, Mary Jane Watson, Miles Morales, Jefferson Davis, Kingpin, the police captain Yuri, they all do a fantastic job in this game. As I mentioned before, honestly, some of my favorite moments in this game are just when characters are talking to each other. I felt that their connections were real. One scene in particular that really stood out to me was when Peter Parker was talking to Miles at his father's funeral. It really struck a chord with me because that was just two really great voice actors working on a really powerful scene. You know, when I first sat down to record my thoughts on this game, I didn't think I was going to be gushing about it as much as I have been, but honestly, I don't have much negative to say about it. Is the game perfect? No, not really. The combat is a little light. It definitely could have used a bit more depth for sure, but it didn't take away from the enjoyment of the game for me at all. However, those sections where you play as Miles Morales or MJ, I did not enjoy them at all. I'm not playing Marvel's Mary Jane Watson, I'm playing Marvel's Spider-Man, just let me play as Spider-Man. That being said, the game performed well, played well, and left me wanting to get my hands on more in the future. Hopefully we're going to see Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales appear on Steam sooner rather than later, and who knows, maybe we'll see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 appear on Steam sooner rather than later as well. But as someone who never played the game when it first appeared on PlayStation 4, I have to say that if you're going to play one superhero game that's not a Batman Arkham game, this should be the game for you. It's incredible, and Insomniac should be constantly patting themselves on the back for creating a game that feels so genuine and fun. And I know that I'm going to be playing through it for a second playthrough before this year is even over. And that's why I'm happy to give Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered a 9.5 out of 10. The game's overall presentation, from its graphics to its voice acting, are just top notch. The combat is fun, if not a little too easy, which may come down to personal preference. And New York City feels alive in this game, from the cars to the pedestrians to the supervillains. That being said, the game isn't perfect. When you're not playing as Spider-Man or Peter Parker, the fun level definitely dropped for me a lot. Even if I like these characters, which I did, I don't want to play as them. Plus, while I like the combat, I have to acknowledge that it's pretty lightweight. Fun and flashy, but lightweight. But that's it from me, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you check out nichegamer.com for all your gaming news, reviews, and previews. If you want to support us, our Patreon links are down in the description below. And we have some brand new merch that's going to be coming to our store very soon as well. And you guys are going to be very excited about it. Also, follow us on social media. The links are down in the description below as well. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter at Tyler of Giondong. Until next time, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right. Lesson's over. Gotta go. Hey, thanks. You know, anytime.